Prince Harry has 250 names that equal or reference the number 666, using 20 different forms of Gematria, including Hebrew, Greek, English, Russian, Arabic, and French. And this chart that you see before you illustrates all those names. And I'm going to go over as briefly as possible all of the names and explain to you the Gematria systems used and the significance of the findings. First of all, we have Standard Hebrew Gematria, and that is the foundational calculation that was discovered, whereby Harry Mountbatten Windsor. Mountbatten is the surname of Philip, Prince Philip, and Windsor is the surname of Queen Elizabeth, who is Prince Philip's wife. Mountbatten Windsor has been the surname of the royals since 1960. Philip and Elizabeth married in November 1947. Now, the foundational calculation is shown here. Harry Mountbatten Windsor. Hebrew is written from right to left, so we have Harry Mountbatten Windsor. The next calculation that was discovered was Harry Spencer, then Prince Henry Albert David, and Harry equals 216, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6. And this has laid the foundation for references. So the name equals 666, but also names that equal a number that references the number. So 216 is clearly a reference to the number 666 in this context. And there are other names that Prince Harry has that equals 216, and there are other names that equal numbers that somehow reference the number 666, and I'll explain that later. Okay, so Standard Hebrew Gematria, the numbering system is in accordance with the position of each letter in the alphabet. And I say alphabet, not alphabet, because that is the name that the Hebrews use. The position of each letter is shown here with Ordinal Hebrew Gematria. So Tav has a value of 22, since it is the 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet, or alphabet. But using Standard Hebrew Gematria, it has a value of 400. The reason for this is because they use their letters as numbers, as a numbering system. And if we just use this Gematria system here as a numbering system, we'd only be able to get to the number 22. But using this numbering system, say for example, if I wanted to do the number 461, I'd have a Tav, a Samek, and an Aleph. That'd be 461, so we can generate numbers. And the Hebrew alphabet has been in that order since at least 1000 BC, when King David wrote the Psalms. There are Psalms that are known as the acrostic Psalms. Say for example, Psalm 119. Psalm 119, the first 8 verses all begin with the letter Aleph. Then the next 8 verses begin with the letter Bet, and then the next 8 verses begin with the letter Gimel, and so forth until the letter Tav. So there's 22 stanzas, if you like, with 8 groups of, each letter is represented by 8 verses. So 22 stanzas, I think, is how you would say it. Now, you might say, well, that only goes up to 400. That isn't very useful if you want to do numbers above 499. But in Hebrew, there's 5 letters, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, and Tasadi, that have a final form or an altered appearance at the end of a word. And they utilize those letters to generate the remaining numbers, 500, 600, 700, 800, and 900. So Aleph, it has a value of 1, and it also has a value of 1,000. So I suppose it depends on the context as to whether it's 1 or 1,000. They might have a comma or something like that to indicate, or some sort of font or serif, if you like, to indicate that 1,000 is being used. So the numbers are from 1, I'll just go back to the standard Hebrew Gematria chart. The numbers are from 1 to 10, and then when double digits are formed, increments are by 10 until triple digits are formed, and then increments are by 100 until the letter Tav, which has a value of 400, or in the case of final form, standard Hebrew Gematria, Tasadi has a value of 900. Okay, so there is 20 different forms of Gematria being used in this chart, and 21 different forms of Gematria are being shown. This is not actually utilized, this Gematria system here. So there are English, Hebrew, Greek, Russian, Arabic, and French languages used. There's 8 different forms of English Gematria. French has the same letters as English, so we utilize this Gematria system here, Ordinal English Gematria only, for the French wording, and this one here as well. We only use one phrase, and that's Henry de Gaulle, which is Henry of Wales, or Harry de Gaulle, which is Harry of Wales, using French. They're the only 2 names that I've been able to find that equal or reference numbers that equal 666. So, where to now? I'll go back to the foundational calculation using standard Hebrew Gematria. I'll just bring that down like that. Actually, I'll bring it up to there. So we have, as I said, Harry Mountbatten Windsor, Prince Henry Albert David, Harry Spencer, Captain Henry of Wales equals 666. Prince Harry was in the military for 10 years, and he reached the rank of Major a few weeks prior to him being married. But so most of his time in the military, he was I'm trying to explain why we haven't used major in this calculation. I'm not aware of any calculation using major that equals or references the number 666. I don't know why that is, but I'll just do a quick search, see if there is an instance of major. Okay, so that is the only reference, I believe, in this chart. Yeah, there's only that reference to major. So I haven't been able to find any calculations that equal or reference the number 666 using the name major. So this is his titles, a list of his titles. His nickname is Prince Harry. That's what he's known to the world as. His legal name is Henry Charles Albert David. His paternal surname is Mountbatten Windsor. His maternal surname is Spencer. And while I'm on this subject, there is a royal precedent whereby Prince Philip, he took his mother's maiden name as his surname. So there's a royal precedent where a royal can take his mother's maiden name as his surname. So Prince Harry may in the future take his mother's maiden name as his surname, which is Spencer. That is yet to be seen. His Royal Highness became void on the 31st of March 2020. That Meghan and Harry stepped down as senior royals, and they were asked to stop using His Royal Highness in their titles and styles, and that became official on the 31st of March. His other titles include Prince Henry of Wales, so he is a Prince of Wales. Captain Harry Wales, when he was in the military he was known as Harry Wales or Captain Wales. Major Harry Wales, as I said, is his most senior rank. The Duke of Sussex, he became the Duke of Sussex on the day of his wedding, the morning thereof. Baron Kilkeel and Earl of Dumbarton. So Wales refers to the United Kingdom has 4 principalities, if you like: Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England. So Wales refers to Wales, obviously. The Duke of Sussex refers to, Sussex is in England. Kilkeel is in Ireland, and Dumbarton is in Scotland. So he has titles in all 4 quarters of the United Kingdom. So I'll just refer back to where I was here. So Captain Henry of Wales. Antichrist looked to Harry, also equals 666, using standard Hebrew Gematria, which is, as I spoke earlier, this Gematria system here. Now all the names displayed on the chart are color-coded. So we have a dark reddy brown for standard Hebrew Gematria, and that is shown here. Latin Gematria is a light green or single-digit Gematria, Latin Gematria. Ordinal English Gematria is a blue, etc. And you'll see that as we go to each one, that they are all color-coded. Alright, so Prince Charles of Wales equals 666, using standard Hebrew Gematria. Now you may say that refers to his father, but it can also refer to Harry. Harry's legal name, remember, is Henry Charles Albert David. So, and he is also a Prince of Wales. So one combination of his name includes Prince Charles of Wales. Satan, Prince of Wales. The Antichrist is believed to be possessed by Satan. So he dies from a deadly head wound and then is resurrected and possessed by Satan. So that's why there's a reference to Satan there. So Satan, Prince of Wales, equals 666. The Emperor Harry Lucifer equals 666. So the letter Hay, which is at the... Now remember, Hebrew is written from right to left. So that word there is Lucifer, Harry... The Emperor Harry Lucifer. So that word there is Hillel, and it's in Isaiah, that spelling of Lucifer. There is another spelling of Lucifer, which is a phonetic spelling. So I was going to say the letter Hay, which is that letter there, when used as a prefix at the beginning of a word, means the. So that's why we have the Emperor Harry Lucifer. Now, we've utilised in this next one initials. So in keeping with Henry Albert David, we have HAD or Harry AD Windsor of Wales. Initials is, for example, in the movie Contact, A.R. Haddon is utilised. If you're familiar with that movie, you could go to the Wikipedia to look it up. One of the characters' names in that movie is referred to as A.R. Haddon. So initials is something that is recognised. And if you Google P. Harry, you'll get a search result for Prince Harry. So the next one is P. Harry Caesar. So P is used for the letter P in Prince, and that equals 666. So it's not just in this list here that initials have been utilised. In other lists I've got on the chart, initials have been utilised. But I have drawn the line here with this one here, Harry Albert David W, Mark of the Beast. Actually, the reason, I'll come to that one in a minute. King Harry Mountbatten, Mark of the Beast equals 666. So Harry Albert David and Mark of the Beast equals 666. And Harry Albert David W, Mark of the Beast equals 666. So the letter Vav can be utilised in Hebrew as a and it is Vav has also in Hebrew, depending on the context, the letter Vav can have a W sound. So that's why I've greyed out that one, because and has been used twice basically. It's the same calculation, only and in this case, W as an initial in that case. So I've drawn the line not including that one, not including that title or name, even though it is in the list. It's not actually included in the total number of names. Simply because an initial, like, my initials are MC, Mark Chiswell. And in that case, you've got all the names initialized, but not very often do you see, like the example with A.R. Haddon, not very often do you see, you'll see the first, the Christian names initialized, but not the surname. So I do dispute whether that one is a recognizable one. And so I'm just communicating that there are certain times where I draw a line and say, no, I'm not going to include that name, even though it does equal 666. It just seemed like a convenience that one of the letters was an initial, and that's been added. Anyway, you have to draw the line somewhere. So King Henry A. David Mountbatten, King of Babylon. A stands for Albert. That equals 666. Harry Lucifer Babylon, and the reference to Babylon or King of Babylon is Revelation chapter 17 and chapter 18 talk about Mystery Babylon or Babylon the Great, and that is the whore or the wife of the Antichrist. So that the Antichrist has various names: the Assyrian, the Egyptian, the Pharaoh of Egypt, the King of Babylon. So Harry Lucifer Babylon equals 666. The Captain Harry Wales Lucifer Beast equals 666. And Strong's 2423 once again is the spelling there for Lucifer. Captain Harry A.D. Wales Lucifer Beast. So A.D. and the have been interchanged. The has a value of 5. A and D has a value of 1 and 4. So that equals 5. That's why that's been exchanged in that calculation. The King Mountbatten Windsor Satan equals 666. Let's move the list up a bit. The King Mountbatten Windsor Satan equals 666. King Spencer Satan equals 666. And now we get into a reference. So Chi Xi Stigma equals 700. The The Greek letters that represent 600, 60 and 6 are chi, xi and stigma. And using base 6 English Gematria, which I'll have to refer to at this point now to explain that. There's no point in not showing you that. So Ordinal English Gematria is each letter has a value in accordance with its position in the alphabet. So A equals 1, B equals 2, all the way up to Z equals 26 because there's 26 letters in the English alphabet. Base 6 English Gematria simply multiplies each position by 6. So A equals 6, B equals 12, C equals 18, and it's incremented by 6 until the letter Z, which has a value of 156. So that's base 6 English Gematria. So using that Gematria system, chi, xi, stigma equals 732. So Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, also equals 732. So Prince Harry equals 361, which is 19 squared, and Duke of Sussex equals 371. So we add those two together and we get 732. So that is the beginning. Well, the beginning here was a reference to 666 by 6 times 6 times 6. So that's the foundational reason that we count not only instances where names equal 666, but also instances where it equals a number that is a reference or a latent reference to the number 666, as is the case with position number 22 in this list. So King Harry Charles Albert David equals 948, which has the factors 158 times 6. So there's a very slight reference there to the number 6. 6 is the number of man. 666 is the number of the beast, as per the book of Revelation, chapter 13. So King Henry Charles Albert David equals 996, and that has the factors 166 times 6. So if we add those two names together, we get 948 plus 996 equals 1944, which has the factors 9 times 6 times 6 times 6. And 1944 comes up a couple of times in Arabic, and I think another calculation using standard English Gematria. I'll just do a find for that, 1944. So that reference there. So using, standard Greek Gematria, there's a reference to 1944. And using Arabic Gematria, there's a reference to 1944. And that's it. So we'll go back to there. Now, the spelling here for Charles has an aleph, but here it doesn't have an aleph. Both are legitimate spellings for Charles. If you put those letters into Google Translate, you will get Charles as a returned result in English. And depending on who the person is, will determine whether they have an aleph used in their name. But so Charles with an aleph is definitely a legitimate spelling. So I've explained that. And for example, when we get to Greek, there's various different spellings for the word, for the name Albert, and for the name, I think Harry can be spelt in a number of different ways. Even the word prince in Hebrew can be spelled a number of different ways. So there's the spelling as per Daniel chapter 9, the prince that shall come. The singer Prince, he has a different spelling for his name in Hebrew. So that generates different values, of course. So 2038 equals 666 using Jewish Old English Gematria, which I'll just refer to now. And if I refer to it now, That means I don't have to refer to it again later, so it's probably a worthwhile exercise. So Jewish Old English Gematria. The letters J, V and W came to the alphabet in 1630 AD. So they would, the position of J is after I and before K, but if we didn't have the order that we have the English alphabet in now, if we referred to the letters as they arrived in the alphabet, so that the Z was the last letter, J would have been the next letter, which then therefore has a value of 600. V has a value of 700, and W has a value of 900, because I believe ampersand, which was the 27th letter of the English alphabet and is no longer used as a letter, it would have had a value of 800. So Gematrix.org, I believe, are the authors or the inventors of this Gematria system. That's where I got this Gematria system from. Not entirely sure what the exact history as to why, I know why, but where this Gematria system came from, but it's considered as a legitimate Gematria system, and there's combinations that use this one and other Gematria systems that validate it. So that's Jewish Old English Gematria, which you may consider as a dubious form of Gematria. I don't rely on it very heavily. So using Jewish Old English Gematria, the word 666 equals 2038. Also equaling 2038 is Duke of Sussex, Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order. So he became, what year was that? Not entirely sure of when he became a KCVO, Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order. I think it was 2017, possibly, or might have been 2016 that he got that award, that he was, became knighted by the Queen. Now, just in regards to the list and the total number of names, each line is numbered, okay? But, like even this one, which I haven't counted, is numbered. So how does this list work? There's 28 lines of information, or 28 names. This here should be at the end of that. There just wasn't enough. I'll just shut that down. That line there should have been at the end of this here, and it could have actually fitted by the looks of it. But anyway, how do we count how do we get 24 out of a list of 28? So, actually, before I mention that, Henry Mountbatten equals 432. So the curious thing about the number 432 is that the mirror of 432 is 234, and if you add them together, it equals 666. The number 432 has the factors 6 times 6 times 6 times 2, and 234 has its own intricacies as well. And when we get to Ordinal English Gematria, you'll see the value and the significance of that. So as I was explaining with the list, there's 28 lines of information up to this line here. And if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, there's four are referring to references, not actual names. So we discount them. So 28 minus 4 equals 24. And in the Ordinal English Gematria, where there's a much bigger list, it becomes quite useful to use that as a way of counting the number of names. I obviously have to have the reference. I have to have the reference there so you know what I'm talking about in the chart, and also have to have the name. And say, for example, this is 1 to 71 lines of information. And if I just count, and there's a total of 55 names, if I was to count every name, that would take longer than if I counted the references and subtracted them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 71 take away 16 is 55. So the references are in bold or in a different colour. Okay, so that explains that in regards to the chart. So this chart has been a long time in the making. We first discovered that Prince Harry had a name that equaled 666 in August 2014, and my collaborator at the time was Brian. He discovered that. Then along came a gentleman by the name of Joachim Arskog. He's I think Swedish, and he helped me with quite a number of names. And so there's been 9 people, including myself, that have collaborated on all of this. And on this, using this chart, 8 collaborators, including myself, have been involved with providing names. So it's been a long time in the making. 2000. So as I said, August 2014. It's now nearly 1 month away from 6 years ago that we started digging into Prince Harry as being the Antichrist. And August 2013 is when I began my search for the Antichrist. I did 20 videos canvassing my audience to try getting someone's name, putting it into Google Translate, and then putting it into a calculator which is no longer available online. I have since now got an Excel spreadsheet that does my calculations, and I'll make that spreadsheet available in the description box below. And this chart, if you want this chart, the link to this chart will be available in the description box below as a link. Okay, so I've gone through this whole list of 28 names, and that's taken me just over half an hour. But I've explained intricacies of the chart as well in that time, so hopefully things will proceed a little bit quicker. Okay, so Harry, as we previously discovered, using standard Hebrew Gematria equals 216, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6. Well, using Ordinal Hebrew Gematria, it equals 36, which has the factors 6 times 6. So remember, Ordinal Hebrew Gematria is this one here, and the letters Aleph equals 1, Bet equals 2, Gimel equals 3, all the way around to Tav, which equals 22. So that means that we can have longer strings of text to generate the number. And Harry has a lot, as we saw earlier with the titles that I listed in the top left-hand corner of the chart. Excuse me. He has a lot of names. So King Lucifer, Henry, Charles, Albert, David. I'll just zoom in on that a little bit more. King Lucifer, Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, Spencer, the first beast of Revelation, equals 666. King Harry, Wales, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, Spencer, Antichrist, beast of Wales, equals 666. 660 and 6 is the words used to in Hebrew. In 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14, that's the Hebrew letters used to write that number, I should say. And we also have a reference in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 9 verse 13, and in Ezra there's a reference which we'll see later to the naming of the number 660 and 6. One reference uses the feminine form, which has a hey in front of it, and one has a reference with an and there's two references with two ands. That's 2 Chronicles 9 verse 13. You can see it says 600 and 60 and 6. So this gives us a legitimate reason to later use that in English, that method of putting two ands with the numbers, even though in English we'd only usually use one and. But the Bible is the foundation for our reasoning and thought. So since the Bible utilizes that, even though it is not normal in English to do that, it gives us a legitimate reason to do that in our calculations. So 660 and 6 equals 197. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, equals 197. So we've got two references using Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. So we've got a extra hay involved with that calculation. I'll just bring that up. There's an extra hay involved there. 660 and 6 using acrophonic ordinal Hebrew Gematria equals 436. And Duke of Sussex, Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order equals 436. So there's another reference. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names that equal or reference the number 666. So in this instance, it was easier to count the actual names rather than discount the references. So if we go back up to acrophonic ordinal Hebrew Gematria, I'll just explain that Gematria system. So each Hebrew letter has a spelling, unlike what we have in English. In English, we just have a letter and you don't really spell the letter, but in Hebrew and in Greek, you actually can spell the letters. So Aleph is spelled Aleph, Lamed, and Pei is the spelling for Aleph. And the English references that I've got here to those letters is as per the Unicode spelling. So Aleph can be spelt with an A, an L, an E, and a P, and a H. But if I was to utilize, as you'll see with these two Gematria systems, all the variations of the different spellings for Hebrew letters, it would create chaos, basically. There'd be so many different Gematria wheels, it would just not be relevant. So I've only utilized the Unicode spelling when we're using English spelling for the Hebrew letters, as we'll see with these two Gematria systems later. So Aleph can be spelt with an Aleph, a Lamed, and a Pei. So that equals 30 if we utilize those letters. Pei has a value of 17 using ordinal Hebrew Gematria. Lamed has a value of 12 and Aleph has a value of 1. So 1 plus 12 plus 17 equals 30, and that's how all the that's how all the values for each letter is generated using acrophonic ordinal Hebrew Gematria. Alright, so that is a legitimate form of Gematria. So using final form ordinal Hebrew Gematria, which I explained earlier, utilizing the value of the final form letters, what are they? Kaf, Mem, Nun, Tasadi, and Pei and Tasadi, I think it is. I'll just go to it. Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, and Tasadi. They're the final form, and they're the values of those value of those letters using ordinal Hebrew Gematria. So final form ordinal Hebrew Gematria, as opposed to final form standard Hebrew Gematria, which is shown on the right. This Gematria wheel, as I explained earlier, is not actually utilized in the chart, but I've shown it just to explain the higher values here. Alright, now if I go back to here, final form ordinal Hebrew Gematria, Chi, Xi, Stigma, which is the Hebrew spelling of the Greek letters that represent 660 and 6, which is as per the Wikipedia. So that's Chi, Xi, and Stigma. Prince Henry equals 116. as well as Chi stigma equals 116. Acrophonic ordinal Hebrew Gematria, 6, which also is 6 and devil both equal 312 using base 6 English Gematria, and the Duke of Sussex also equals 312. So the number 6 is the number of man, and we've got those two as a reference there. Phonic Hebrew Ordinal English Gematria. If I just go back up to that one and explain that Gematria system, it's similar to acrophonic Hebrew Gematria. So with phonic Hebrew Gematria, ordinal English and standard English, we're utilizing the English spelling rather than the Hebrew spelling of each letter. So Aleph is spelt with an A, an L, an E, and an F. So A has a value of 1, 12 has a value of L has a value of 12, E has a value of 5, F has a value of 6, and if we add up all those numbers we get 24. So that generates a whole different lot of numbers for those letters depending on the spelling and their position. Excuse me. And then we have the same system, but instead of using ordinal English Gematria values, we use standard English Gematria values. So I'll just go to those two Gematria wheels now to quickly show you what they are, because I haven't done that yet. So this is standard English Gematria, and this is ordinal English Gematria. So as per standard Hebrew Gematria, each letter is incremented by 1 until the number 10, and then it's incremented by 10 until the number 100, then it's incremented by 100 until the number 800. And ordinal English Gematria, as I explained earlier, is just the value of each letter in accordance with its position in the alphabet. So, go back to this chart here. So, using the spelling of each letter, using the Unicode spelling, and using standard English Gematria to generate the numbers for each of those letters. So, for example, Aleph is A equals 1, Aleph equals 30, using that Gematria system. E equals 5, F equals 6. So if we add those together, we get 42. So you can see that Gematria system and how it works. And so 6 and devil equals 312, and Prince Harry equals 312, using that Gematria system. So that's fairly significant. There's a number of other finds using 312, which I'll just search for now. So 666 plus 666 equals 312. Prince Mountbatten Windsor equals 312. And in Greek, I'll just quickly refer to, this is ordinal Greek Gematria. Henry Charles Albert David equals 312. And we'll see if we get another one. And then we're back to there. So there's references in English, Greek, and in Hebrew to the number 312. So we see this often where there's numbers that are significant to the number 6 or to a name, and they're connected to Prince Harry in some way. We see this often, over and over again. Now this calculation utilizes standard English Gematria, ordinal English Gematria, Jewish Old English Gematria, base 6 English Gematria, standard Hebrew Gematria, and standard Greek Gematria. So King Harry Mountbatten Windsor equals those respective numbers, and King Harry Mountbatten Windsor equals that number. We add all those numbers up together, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the mirror of that number is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which if you add those two numbers together, you get 600, 66,666. And the principle for mirroring numbers I referred to earlier with the number 432 and Standard Hebrew Gematria entry for Harry Mountbatten, I think it was. Henry Mountbatten equals 432. But the foundation before that occurrence and the one the big, the 66,666 calculation, the foundation for those came from Ordinal English Gematria, and a lady on YouTube put me onto this. I think she discovered Harry, just put that up a bit, Harry Charles Albert David and Henry Charles Albert David, because Harry and Henry both equal the value of 70 in this Gematria system, so we get a double up of names. So they equal 234, and the mirror of 234 is 432, and if we add them together we get 666. And not only that, but Prince Harry equals 135, and the mirror of that is 531. If you add them together we get 666. And as we'll later see, there's combinations of Prince Harry's name, as can be seen here, which equals 666, and they have Prince Harry and Prince Henry in them, as well as Henry Charles Albert David. So we can do what we like in regards to the mirroring. There is a composite number. If we utilize 135, there is a calculation that equals 531. If we use 234, there is a calculation that equals 432 that is a composite for those mirrored numbers. So it would be interesting if we could find a calculation of his name using a Gematria system. Where are we? Down here somewhere. It would be very interesting if we could come up with a calculation that equaled 54,321, but as yet that hasn't happened. So using standard Arabic Gematria, so using the Wikipedia spelling for Harry and for Henry Charles Albert David, we get the following calculations. Harry also equals 216 using standard Arabic Gematria, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6. So it's the same spelling for Harry as we see in standard Hebrew Gematria, because Hebrew and Arabic are linguistically similar and as to the ordering of the letter and the phonetics. And just interestingly, with the transliteration of Harry, which has two R's, into Hebrew, as we'll later see, this information is useful for another reason. It loses an R. So as we transliterate Harry to Harry in Hebrew, we're reproducing the sound of that name. So we don't use two R's in Hebrew. And the same is the case for in Arabic. We don't use two R's. So Henry Charles Albert David equals 1944, which was a number that we previously referenced, and that has the factors 6 times 6 times 6 times 9, and 9 in the Bible is the number for judgment. If you refer to Bullinger and his work, Number in Scripture, he makes a point that the number 9 is the number of finality, and it's the number of judgment. So I'll just do a search for 1944 to see how many references we've got to that number. So we've got that one there that we've already done. I think I've already searched this, haven't I? So there's this reference, Prince Harry Albert David using standard Greek Gematria equals 1944. Yeah, I do recall already searching for that. I just thought I'd do another search just to make a point that the number 1944 is significant in standard Hebrew Gematria and in Greek, and as well as in Arabic. I think there's another reference to the number 1944 using another name. thought there was one in Standard English Gematria. Just hang on a second. I don't know why it hasn't come up. Oh, okay. Henry Lucifer equals 1296, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. That's what I was thinking of. Anyway. I think I've seen the number 1944 come up in other calculations, but I don't recall now what they were. Okay, so using ordinal Arabic Gematria, Harry equals 36, which has the factors 6 times 6, same as ordinal Hebrew Gematria. And Henry Charles Albert David, which equals 234, which has the factors, 234 is a mirror number. The mirror of 234 is 432. If we add them together, then it equals 666. But not only that, the number 234 can be broken up into 216 and 18. 216 plus 18 equals 234. So 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216, and 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. 216 plus 18 equals 234. So that's another unique thing about the number 234. And its mirror, 432, which is 216 times 2, and 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. The mirroring of these numbers and the intricacies within, the code within the code is amazing. Until I started studying this, did not know that. You start studying, you find out that there's a code inside a code inside a code. And there's another one that we'll see later using Ordinal English Gematria, which is just as interesting. So we're nearly gone an hour. Standard Russian Gematria, 666 equals 441. Prince Harry Charles Albert David Beast equals 441. 666, and that's the using standard Greek Gematria. That is the spelling. That is how you use 666 in words, in Greek words. So instead of utilizing the letters, as is the case with Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, chi, xi, and stigma, the Greek letters are used rather than the in the original version. So if you go to the the 1650, I think it is, or 1610, the Stephanus version of the received text, or the Textus Receptus, it uses, the original version uses chi, xi, and stigma, and it would have been digamma. Stigma is now an obsolete letter. In Greek Gematria, they don't have. Stigma still occupies that position in the Gematria table, but in modern Greek, they no longer use the letter stigma. Same with copper and sampi. They all occupy positions in the table, but those letters are no longer used in modern Greek. So in later versions of the Bible, transliterations of the Bible, they actually spell the number 600, 60, and 6. So that's 600, that's 60, and that's 6, rather than using the letters chi, xi, and stigma, which have the values of 600, 60, and 6. So that equals 1035. Prince Harry also equals 135. So ordinal Russian Gematria, Prince Harry equals 135, and the mirror of 135 is 531, as I explained earlier, which equals 666 if we add them together. 666 and 600 3-score-6 both equal 588 using ordinal English Gematria, and using ordinal Russian Gematria, Prince Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor equals 588. So that's another very interesting reference to the number 666. And this is, weaving a tapestry. The tapestry is Prince Harry as the Antichrist, as the first beast of Revelation chapter 13. And all these references are weaving a tapestry. It's more than just that number. That is the key number. That is the foundational number, 666. But there's also supporting evidence to suggest that he is the Antichrist and that he is the beast of Revelation, the first beast. Now, we'll just move on to Greek Gematria. So as I was talking about earlier, with copper, SAMPI, and stigma, which aren't shown in these charts. So 5 and 6, those letters are obsolete. That letter's obsolete. Stigma is not utilised in this Gematria wheel, and SAMPI would have a value of 900, and copper, which is the 18th letter. Yeah, so over here we're missing the 18th letter, which is copper. So stigma, copper, and SAMPI, and you can verify this on the Wikipedia if you put in Greek Gematria Wikipedia, and it's called in Greek it's called isopsophy, and sepsophy. I'll just put the select tool up. That's not what I wanted. Let's try and those letters there, PSEPHY, means to count. So ISO, there's a meaning for that word in Greek. Like isometric, it means, I don't recall what ISO actually, I don't want to go to the internet just now. I don't want to get off topic, but the Greek word in the Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 text, sepsophy, means to count. Yeah, I've forgotten what ISO, like isometric, means a grid, doesn't it, in architecture? Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So stigma has a value of 6, and it's not shown in this because modern Greek doesn't utilize that letter, so there's no point in showing it. Copper has a value of, its position is there, it has a value of 90. It's the 18th letter, and SAMPI is the 27th letter, and it would have a value of 900. So just in case you're wondering with this Gematria wheel, that explains why those positions aren't shown, because those letters aren't used in modern Greek. But they still hold a value in the Gematria table, as I explained with, if you go to the Wikipedia entry for isopsophy or Greek Gematria. So that's that Gematria system. And if we go down to there, here it is over here. We've gone an hour. So there's 17 names here. H. David Spencer equals 666. Henry equals 765. And the mirror of 765 is 567. If we add them together, we get 1,332, which has the factors 666 times 2. 1670 equals 666 using cardinal ordinal English Gematria, which I'll explain now. So with cardinal ordinal English Gematria and cardinal standard English Gematria, each letter is assigned a written number in English, So A has a value. A has a value of 1, so it has. So 1 is written down for that. So using ordinal English Gematria, O has a value of 15, N has a value of 14, and E has a value of 5. So if we add those values together, 15, 14, and 5, we get 34. And using standard English Gematria, those letters have a value of 50 and 60, and E still has a value of 5. So 50 and 60 and 5 equals 115. So we generate quite large numbers using that Gematria system. And as you can see, each number is written out as a word. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 26. So Z has a value of 159, based on it having a value of 26, which is referring to the spelling of that of the number 26. And if you then transfer each letter's value into a number, you get 159 for the letter Z. So that's cardinal ordinal English Gematria. So we go back to our Greek list. Yeah. So 666 equals 1670, as well as King Harry Henry using standard Greek Gematria equals 1670. Captain Henry Wales equals 1674. And 1674 is a very highly saturated number when it comes to the number 666, or the number 6, because it is comprised of 216, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6, 396, which has the factors 66 times 6, and 6 times 66 if you like, and 666. So 216 plus 396 plus 396 plus 666 equals 1674, which equals Captain Henry Wales. Which, if you recall, that Captain Henry Wales equaled 666 using standard Captain Henry of Wales. So mem is the prefix which means of. And there's two different spellings for Wales while I'm at it using in Hebrew. So that spelling there has two vavs and two yuds, whereas Prince Charles of Wales, that spelling there just has one vav and one yud, and mem is still utilised as of. So I just thought I'd explain that. The Wikipedia spells it with two vavs and two yuds, but according to Tim Cohen, Prince Charles of Wales spelling equaling 666 is a legitimate spelling. He believes the newspaper spells it that way. The New York Times, I think it is, he references in his book, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. And while I'm at it, I have a book also, The Antichrist and a glass of wine. Glass of wine, yeah. So there's The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, and I've written a follow-up book about Prince Harry being the Antichrist rather than Prince Charles, called The Antichrist and a Glass of Wine. So, Prince Harry Albert David, where we've dropped the name Charles, which is consistent with the calculation Prince Henry Albert David equaling 666 using standard Hebrew Gematria. Prince Harry Albert David equals 1944, which, as I explained earlier, has the factors 9 times 6 times 6 times 6. The King Captain Henry Wales equals 1998, which is equal to 666 times 3. The Harry Albert David Spencer equals 1998. Now in Greek, it is standard to use the letter omicron to mean the, and it is the masculine version. I think it's, just bear with me for a second. I think it's this letter here, eta, that is the feminine form. So if you have that at the beginning of someone's name, you know that it's referring to a female, and if you have an omicron at the beginning of the person's name, you know it's a male. Which I assume because in Greek Greek has the most words of any language, I believe. It's huge amount of words in Greek. I'll bring up a reference to what I'm talking about in the post-production as to how many million words there are in Greek. So I assume because there's so many words, you need extra identifiers, in their language system, you need extra things like this, like omicron and eta, to refer to the masculine and the feminine form of the name to help identify who the person is. So it's a standard thing in Greek to have the in front of a person's name. And it is referring it's called the definite article, and it's referring to it's a reference to the masculinity of the person's name. So that Harry Albert David Spencer, Prince Henry Albert David also equals 1998. Henry Windsor the Ninth. So the last Henry in British history was Henry VIII. So Prince Harry will be the 9th Henry. Now a lot of people say Prince Harry can't be the Antichrist because he's 6th in line to the throne. Well, he's not going to be king of the United Kingdom only. He's going to be king of the world. And because he's king of the world, he will then be king of the United Kingdom by default. So that's why we've got a reference to the word the ninth. So Henry Windsor the Ninth equals 2,664, which has the factors 666 times 4. The King Henry Mountbatten the Ninth equals 3,996, which has the factors 666 times 6. The King Captain Henry Charles Albert David Wales also equals 3,996, which has the factors 666 times 6. And there's another reference to that using standard English Gematria, so that number. Harry Mountbatten, Ninth of Wales equals 4,662, which has the factors 666 times 7. Harry A.D. Mountbatten, Windsor of Wales equals 5,328, which has the factors 666 times 8. Okay, 666 using phonic Hebrew Standard English Gematria Unicode names, and 666, so the same Hebrew letters, using phonic Hebrew Ordinal English Gematria Unicode names. So it's the same spelling for the number from 2 Chronicles chapter 9 verse 13. If you add those two together, it's 5,616, and that number equals Prince Harry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor Spencer using standard Greek Gematria. Henry Wales A.D. Mountbatten Windsor of Welsh. So this spelling here is not Wales, it is Welsh, which is a little bit dubious. I think I didn't come up with this calculation, but it equals 5,994, and that has the factors 666 times 9. And P. Harry, as I said earlier, if you Google P. Harry, you will get Prince Harry as a return result using the internet, using the web. So P. Harry Wales Spencer Mountbatten Windsor of Wales equals 5,994, which has the factors 666 times 9. And Harry Charles Albert David Spencer Mountbatten the Ninth of Wales equals 6,660, which has the factors 666 times 10. So there's 17 names in that list. Then using Ordinal Greek Gematria. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to cut some corners because I'm going to get worn out, I reckon, going through all these. And if you really want to study it, you can. But I'm going to start skipping. I've covered the basics. Numbers like 279, which is a factor of 1,674, which is that highly saturated number in regards to the number 6. You get the gist of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, I believe, I would imagine. So I don't need to detail every name. But I do want to point out this calculation here. Harry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor Spencer. I discovered this one yesterday. And it's a highly significant calculation because I had a friend on on Facebook who's Greek, and he was determined that the name had to equal 666 using Greek Gematria. And him and Joachim Ariskog, I believe, they were friends on Facebook. They became friends on Facebook because of me. And I've since parted ways with both of them because of this, because of different points of view on things, and just I suppose it's a shame to have parted company, but they had particular views which I didn't agree with, and I was just like, oh, no, I'm not going down that path. But he was determined that the name had to equal 666 using Greek Gematria. The problem with Greek Gematria is the Greek names tend to be longer than they are in English, and it tends to generate high numbers using standard Greek Gematria. But using Ordinal Greek Gematria, we have been able to come up with, well, I have been able to come up with a combination of his name, and all these spellings of Harry, that's as per the Wikipedia, Harry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, Spencer. That spelling there for his name is as per the Wikipedia. For example, this spelling here, which I think is consistent with Harry from One Direction. I think his spelling is like that. Or Harry Houdini. It's another Harry. Harry Truman. I think the spelling for Harry is as per that spelling there. Which I'll just bring over to the side. That's that spelling there for Harry. Okay, so that's highly significant, that calculation there. Harry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, Spencer equaling 666. So his full name. And so anyway, we have other references there that equal 666 that utilise Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, the King Captain. This spelling for Mountbatten is Mount Batten, and it's slightly different to this spelling here, which in Greek is pronounced Mayount Vatten. They've got different ways of pronouncing B. They use a pi and what's it called, the letter for M, mu and pi are put together to pronounce a b sound, p, b sort of sound. So anyway, that's Greek. That's nothing to do with me. That's what the Wikipedia says. That's what Google Translate says. Although you can get different results using Google Translate. And here's some close ones. They were 6 digits off. They equaled 660. But if you add the man himself, the man, as this chart indicates, I've got this graphic here of Prince Harry covered in 6s. If you include Prince Harry as an entity unto himself to those calculations, I haven't included them in the numbering, in the total number of names in this chart, but the King, Harry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, King, Harry, Wales, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, and Harry, Charles, Albert, David, Windsor, Mountbatten of Wales equals 660. And if you add the final ingredient, which is Prince Harry, his number would be 6. He's a man. That would bring it, it's a technicality that doesn't meet the requirements, so I haven't included them in the list. So there's a total of 20 names there. Now we'll go to Latin Gematria, which is all these ones here, 45. Latin Gematria, which someone put me onto, is also called Pythagoras' numbering system. I think it's Pythagoras or Archimedes, can't remember. So a equals 1, and each letter is incremented by 1 until the number I, to the letter I, which has a value of 9. And then because the next number would be a double digit, it's reset to the number 1. So j has a value of 1. So j, k, l, m, n, o, p, q, r, s, t. Sorry, r has a value of 9, and then s is the system gets reset back to the value of 1 until the letter z, which has a value of 8. So that's single-digit Gematria, because only single digits are used. So we generate fairly low numbers with this Gematria system. Okay, so the Duke of Sussex equals 58, and chi, xi, and stigma. The original letter stigma was called digamma, which is pronounced as war, so W is used for that. And Strong's, using Bible Hub, Strong's reference 5516 makes an abbreviation of chi, xi, and stigma as CHXS. So this this abbreviation is using the letter W for stigma, which is, as I explained earlier, just moments ago, is the original letter is digamma in Greek. But I'm not big on that, but it does equal 58, which is the Duke of Sussex using that Gematria system. Prince Harry equals 72, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 2. And also in this Gematria system, Harry and Henry equal each other. Harry Lucifer equals 6 times 6 times 2. Henry Lucifer equals 6 times 6 times 2. And interestingly, we have a pattern or a theme here. If I go back over to here, using standard English Gematria, Henry Lucifer and Harry Lucifer are both equal numbers that have references to the number 6. So Henry Lucifer equals 1296, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. And Harry Lucifer equals 1332, which has the factors 666 times 2. So Harry Great Dragon is also referenced in standard English Gematria that has factors involving the number 6. And Henry Charles Albert David equals 108, which is a half of 216. So 216 has the factors 6 times 6 times 6. So you are beginning to see a pattern here with the numbers that are utilised. Chi, xi, and stigma using ordinal English Gematria equals 122, which using Latin Gematria equals 122 also for the phrase King Prince Harry of Wales and King Prince Henry of Wales. Harry Charles Albert David Wales equals 123, which equals 603 score and 6. Sorry, 603 score 6 without the and. And on we go, and on we go. More and more names there using Latin Gematria. You can look at that later. And there's a total of 45 names there. So it's just basically repeating the principle that I've already shown you. Duke Harry, Duke Henry equals 666 using base 6 English Gematria. King Harry, King Henry both equal 666. Henry de Gaulle, or Harry of Wales, which is the French spelling of his name, equals 810, which equals Vav, Vav, Vav. So the Hebrew letter for the number 6 is Vav, so 666 basically. 603 score 6 plus 603 score 6 equals 2490, which equals King Harry Charles Albert David Spencer Wales. So that's that Gematria system. Now this Gematria system Tim Cohen uses for Prince Charles. Prince Charles of Wales equals 666 using this Gematria system, which is standard English Gematria binary, because Z equals 0, and I'll explain that now. So standard English Gematria is the same. Standard English Gematria binary has the same values as standard English Gematria, except for W, X, Y, and Z. And that is because the Hebrew alphabet, just bring that all over to here, otherwise I'm going to have an issue in post-production moving my picture-in-picture. So Tav has a value, it's the 22nd letter and it has a value of 400. So the reasoning is, I think Monty Judah invented this Gematria system in 1987, and he decided that the last letter of the English alphabet should have a value of 400, and then the letters after that should have a value of 0. So it's a little bit dodgy in my opinion, this Gematria system. I don't utilize it very often, but it does generate 666 with the name Charles, because W has a value of 0. Is that? Yeah, V has a value of 400. W, X, Y, and Z have a value of 0. So it means that Prince Charles of Wales ends up equaling 666 using this Gematria system. So there's 7 names there. And now we'll get on to Jewish Old English Gematria. There's a list there of various combinations. This one here, 666 equals 2038, and Prince Mountbatten Windsor equals 2038. And I'll let you look at those details. Now I've got lion and snake. The devil is known as a lion in Scripture in Peter, one of Peter's letters. I think it's 2 Peter, and Satan, or the devil, is known as a serpent or a snake in Scripture. So that's why there's a reference there to snake and to lion. And it's also relevant in these calculations here using Ordinal English Gematria. Where is it? Must be over here, down here, perhaps. Yeah. So Prince Harry, Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor, Baron. So remember, he's the Baron of Kilkeel. Baron has a value of 50. So the same phrase, and so, well, Baron, Snake, Lion, and Salem all have a value of 50, so they can be interchanged. So that means that Prince Harry, Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor equals 616, which is another very oblique reference to the number 666. And, I'm not big on this, but it is a reference because there is a papyrus 115, and it's an error. It had the value of 666 as 616. Well, interestingly enough, Satan has caused someone to make that mistake on purpose, because any scribe would know, in writing out the book of Revelation, there's very severe penalties for getting it wrong. You have to know what you're doing. If you get it wrong, you have to screw it up, burn what you've made, burn the copy you've made, and start again. That's the procedure that Kent Hovland has spoken about. As I've heard that a scribe must get what he's writing down absolutely perfect, otherwise they have to start again. So Satan has led someone to make this number 616, and it's ironic because I believe that Prince Harry will be Satan in the flesh when he dies by a deadly sword wound to the head. He's resurrected. I believe it's going to be suicide. And there's Gematria evidence to back that up. So Prince Harry, Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor equals 616, as it turns out. So I've counted that as one of the names. Now this one here, for example, is greyed out. King Harry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, W of Wales, the 9th. I've not counted that one, even though it does equal 666. I just think it's a little bit weird to have an initial for a surname in that place. Yeah, just for Windsor. Anyway, so let's explain this. Harry, so the Hebrew transliteration of Harry only has one R. If we then take the Hebrew spelling back into English and we keep only one R as the spelling for Harry, that equals 52. As it so happens, that also equals devil, and it also equals 6. Now, Prince Henry and Prince Harry both equal 135, which as I explained earlier has the mirror number 531. If you add them together, you get 666. Harry de Gaulle, which is the French spelling, equals 135 as well. Now just see this number 275. 2 times 7 times 5 equals 70. 27 times 5 equals 135, and we're seeing the numbers 2, 7 and 5. And Harry Spencer and Henry Spencer equal 150, which has the factors 2 times 75. So we're seeing the numbers 275 again. If we go down to this list here, 275 equals 666. So that has the factors, that has the numbers 275, which is what we just saw up above. 2 times 7 times 5, 27 times 5, and 2 times 75, which generates these numbers here, 70, 135, and 150. Okay, so keep this moving along, hour and a half. So Duke Harry Charles Albert David equals 275, which equals 666. King Harry Charles Albert David and King Henry Charles Albert David equals 275 as well. Excuse me. Prince Harry Wales Spencer equals 275, and Prince Henry Wales Spencer. Harry Wales Mountbatten equals 275. 294. So 600, 3 score 6, 666. So before we didn't have an and, now we have an and. So that increases it from 275 to 294. And that means we have Harry Charles Albert David Wales equals 294. Oh, I made a mistake there. That one there should be Henry. And actually, I made a mistake there too. That should be Henry. So I'll have to fix that up on my chart. Make a mental note about that one. So Henry Charles Albert David Wales equals 294. Duke Harry Windsor of Wales, King Harry Windsor of Wales equals 294. Now 600, 3 score and 6 equals 313. Prince Harry Albert David Spencer equals 313. So we've dropped the Charles, but once again that's consistent with our foundational calculation. Prince Henry Albert David equals 666 using standard Hebrew Gematria. So on the references go. Total 55 there, and then the Ordinal English ones continue up here, as you see here. And we've got Duke Captain Harry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor Spencer. Duke Captain Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor Spencer. We've got King Captain Duke Israel, because he's going to be he's the Duke at the moment. He's going to be King of the world. He'll be King of Israel, King of the United Kingdom. So King Israel Harry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor Spencer equals 666. So there's 250 names. I just got one more list to go over, which is this list here, which has a couple of interesting ones. I've already discussed. Now there's something wrong with the graphics. There we go. That'll do. Just zoom in. That's better. So I've already explained these ones. Henry Great Dragon equals 1368, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 38. Harry Great Dragon. So in Revelation chapter 12, Satan is referred to as a great dragon. Has the fact equals 1404, which has the factors 6 times 6 times 39. And 39 is a number that comes up with Prince Harry. 40 is the number of completing a test. 39 is failing a test. So this one here, Prince Harry, Mountbatten, Windsor, Wales, Spencer equals 3,996, which has the factors 666 times 6. So I think I've explained everything that I need to explain in terms of the chart. Just got a couple of things to fix up here. But I'm not going to do my whole video again just because of that. So I've covered everything. Yeah, I haven't covered these ones up here. So there's 4 names up here. Shut that down. So using Cardinal Standard English Gematria and Cardinal Ordinal English Gematria, King Harry Charles Albert David equals 15,692, and King Harry Charles Albert David equals 1841. 1841 is a number that comes up in 2 other instances. One particular spelling of Harry Spencer, using Standard Greek Gematria equals 1841, and Antichrist using Standard Greek Gematria also equals 1841. So 1841 is significant. 666 equals 15,863. 666 using Cardinal Ordinal English Gematria, which is this Gematria system here, equals 1670. Now if you total those 2 numbers together, we get 17,533, which is the same total for these 2 Gematria calculations, 17,533. And then there's another one here using Acrophonic Ordinal Hebrew Gematria, and you can see there we've got some references. Harry Charles Albert David equals 531, which also equals 666 using Phonic Hebrew Ordinal English Gematria Unicode names, and 531 has the mirror number 135, which if you add together equals 666. So there's 2 names there. So we've got 5 lines of information, 1, 2 names, but that one can be counted twice because it has a reference there and it has a reference there. So that's why we've got 3. So there's 250 names that equal or reference the number 250 names that equal or reference the number 666. So if you're still listening, you've done well to listen to all that. This as I said, in 2013, I did 20 videos canvassing my audience to try my method to calculate the number of the beast, because people kept on saying Obama was the Antichrist. And I said, well, where's the calculation? Now they're saying Trump's the Antichrist. Well, where's the calculation for that? It's, we've got to deal with facts. We've got to deal with things that are concrete. And this chart is concrete. Calculations involving Prince Harry are concrete. And they are factual. It's not speculation. He is a dead certainty to be the Antichrist, and 2021 is going to be the year that is highly significant. And I'll bring up a chart that details all the dates in regards to that, and it's totally backed up with the first seal, the second seal, the third seal, and the fourth seal. The rider of the white horse, Prince Harry. The rider of the red horse, Putin. The rider of the black horse, David Malpass. And the rider of the 4th horse is death, which is COVID-19. And I've got videos that explain that. We are definitely living in Daniel's 70th week, the first half of Daniel's 70th week. So the rapture is in the middle of Daniel's 70th week in accordance with the dual chronology of the book of Revelation. There is hope. God is not going to leave us undone. The harpazo, the snatching away, the rapture, day 1335, from Yom Teruah 2017 to Pentecost 2021, there is exactly 1335 days if we include the beginning date and the end date in accordance with torahcalendar.com. So I'm excited. Jesus' return is just around the corner. Another 10 months and we're going to be out of here. But we're going to see the two witnesses. We're going to see the Antichrist die and come back to life. It's believed that he'll be resurrected on the 4th of March. On the 4th of March, he'll be 13,320 days old, which is 666 times 20. And the 5th of March is the day the abomination of desolation is set up, 1,260 days after Yom Teruah 2017. We have the Revelation 12 heavenly sign, which took place on the 23rd of September 2017. So this is definitely going to happen. And if you're still listening and you've got to this point in the video, well done. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And I'll see you again in another video. God bless. Bye.